You ever have one of those days where you just want to enjoy something small, like a scoop of your favorite ice cream, only for someone to swoop in and ruin it? Yeah, that was me last week. I live in a pretty quiet neighborhood, the kind where drama usually means someone didn't mow their lawn on time. But then there's her asterisk, the self-appointed HOA queen, who everyone just calls Karen. She's got a knack for poking into everyone's business and acting like the whole block is her kingdom. So here's what happened. I had just come back from a long day, and all I wanted was to chill out with my favorite treat, cookies and cream, right? I leave it in the community freezer for *1 night, and the next day it's gone. Poof, but it wasn't stolen by just anyone. Nope, it was Karen who proudly announced she tossed it out because shared spaces aren't for personal use. No warning, no notice, just gone. Now, I'm not usually petty, but this time, let's just say I decided to get a little creative. I swapped in some ice cream of my own, a special batch with a spicy surprise hidden inside. And oh yeah, she definitely helped herself again. But what happened next? Let's just say it didn't go down how I thought it would. Now, before you think I went full evil mastermind, let me explain. Karen's been pulling this kind of stunt for months. She nitpicks about lawns being too long by half an inch, reports people for parking too close to the curb, and even told one of our neighbors their Halloween decorations were too spooky for the neighborhood aesthetic. Yeah, it's been like living in a sitcom, except no one's laughing. So when she trashed my ice cream like it was some kind of health violation, I figured it was time to send a message, one with a little kick. I grabbed some plain vanilla, hollowed out a few scoops, and filled the centers with wasabi. Then I covered them up real nice, smoothed it all out, and popped the container right back in the freezer. Nothing fancy, just enough to make anyone think it was just a sweet little treat waiting to be stolen. Again. The funny part, I didn't have to wait long. Later that day, I overheard her in the hallway complaining about a weird batch of ice cream and how her mouth felt like it was on fire. She had no idea where it came from, but here's where things got even weirder. The next morning, a notice showed up taped to my door, and it wasn't from the HOA. At first, I thought the note was just another HOA warning, maybe something about improper freezer use, or whatever nonsense Karen comes up with. But when I opened it, it wasn't from the HOA at all. It was handwritten, no name, just a messy scrawl. Watch your back. Some people don't forget. Okay, not creepy at all, right? I started thinking maybe I pushed things too far, but then again, it was just wasabi. It's not like I poisoned anyone. Still, something felt off. I tried brushing it off, thinking maybe it was just Karen being dramatic. But later that week, weird stuff started happening. My trash bins were accidentally not picked up. A landscaping crew showed up and trimmed one of my hedges into a weird shape, like half of it was just gone. And the kicker? Someone reported me to the HOA for improper food storage. I hadn't even restocked the freezer. Meanwhile, the neighborhood grapevine was buzzing. Apparently, Karen wasn't just mad, she was embarrassed. She'd told a few of her inner circle that she had an allergic reaction, though everyone seemed confused because it wasn't even that serious. Still, she was out for payback. And the worst part, I wasn't even sure it was just her anymore. Someone else might have gotten involved, and I was starting to feel the pressure. I started watching my back more than usual. Every time I stepped outside, it felt like someone was watching me, from behind curtains, parked cars, even while walking their dogway too slow past my house. The note, the weird HOA complaint, the landscaping mess, it was adding up. But no one was saying anything directly. That's what made it worse, the silence. Just this weird energy in the air, like something was brewing. Then came the HOA meeting. Karen showed up in full force, clipboard in hand, smug as ever. She wasn't even pretending anymore. She brought up a serious issue with resident behavior, looking right at me while staying vague enough to keep things official. People in the room were shifting, whispering. It felt like a trial I didn't even know I was on. But here's where things really hit a turning point. I got home that night to find my front yard decorated with ice cream containers. Empty ones, dozens of them, strung up like holiday lights across my porch railings and shrubs. Some even had little stickers on them. Green, like wasabi. No note this time, just the message, loud and clear. That's when I realized this wasn't just Karen anymore. Someone else was in on it. And they weren't just annoyed, they wanted to make a point. One I wasn't sure I'd see coming. I stood there on the porch, just staring at the ice cream graveyard someone had strung across my house like some kind of twisted art project. At first, I thought it had to be Karen. She had the time and the pettiness. But the more I looked at it, the more it felt different. This wasn't her style. Karen likes rules, warnings, HOA letters. This was personal, creative, a message meant to rattle me, not just punish. The next morning, I got my second clue. My neighbor Jeff, the quiet guy who mostly kept to himself, stopped me as I was leaving. He looked around like he didn't want anyone to hear and said, "Hey, not sure if it's my place, but you might want to check the security camera across from your unit. I saw someone messing around near your yard real late." That caught me off guard. Jeff never talks. And how did he know about my yard being messed with? I checked the footage and there it was. Blurry, but clear enough. It wasn't Karen. It was someone else entirely. Someone I hadn't even thought about. The HOA's assistant, Mark. Super quiet, always smiling, always acting like he didn't want to be involved. But there he was, stringing up containers at 2 a.m., looking way too into it. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just Karen being petty anymore. This was turning into something much bigger and way more personal. I couldn't let it slide, not after seeing Mark on that footage. So I printed out a few stills, tucked them into a folder, and decided it was time for a little visit to the next HOA meeting. I wasn't looking to start drama, just get answers. But when I walked in and sat across from Karen and Mark, I could feel the tension in the room shift. Karen gave me that tight-lipped smile, like she knew something I didn't. Mark just looked nervous. When it was my turn to speak, I calmly pulled out the photos and placed them on the table. Thought the HOA should see who's been decorating my yard lately. The room went dead quiet. Mark's face went pale. Karen looked at the photos, then at him, then back at me. For once, she had nothing to say. That's when Mark cracked. Turns out, he and Karen weren't exactly partners. He had his own grudge. Karen had blamed him for a clerical mistake that cost him a raise. So when he overheard her ranting about the wasabi ice cream incident, he decided to stir the pot. Literally. He used my prank to push her over the edge and make her look like the neighborhood villain, knowing she'd snap under pressure. Karen ended up stepping down from the HOA for health reasons. Mark resigned the next week. Karen ended up stepping down from the HOA for health reasons. Mark resigned the next week. But the twist? A few days later, I found a small cooler on my porch. Inside, a single scoop of cookies and cream, with a tiny note that read, * nice move. Game on *. At first, I laughed when I saw the cooler. It was clever, subtle, a little unnerving, but also kind of impressive. I wasn't even mad. After everything, it felt like the end of some weird, passive-aggressive chess match between bored adults with too much time on their hands. I tossed the scoop. No way I was eating mystery ice cream again. But the message was clear. The game was over. Or at least, paused. The neighborhood slowly went back to normal. With Karen out of the HOA spotlight, things actually got a little better. People relaxed. The vibe changed. No more petty warnings or passive-aggressive flyers about mailbox colors. Even Mark disappeared from the radar. Maybe he moved, maybe he just finally minded his own business. Either way, peace returned. As for me, I never stored food in the community freezer again. Lesson learned. And yeah, Maybe I was a little petty with the wasabi prank, but sometimes standing up for yourself means getting a little creative. I don't regret it. It brought out the true colors of people who were hiding behind rules and fake smiles. Looking back, it was never really about the ice cream. It was about boundaries, respect, and how quickly small things can spiral when egos and entitlement get in the mix. So if you're ever dealing with a so-called HOA Karen in your life, maybe just lock your freezer, keep your receipts, and always expect the unexpected, especially when wasabi is involved.